Your comments?
Yeah, that's where I'll bring him up right there. I'll let him introduce it.
Okay. Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the regular council meeting to order. I'd like to ask you to turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate, and then please let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Dalby.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from special meeting number 13 on April 27th, 2021, and regular meeting number 14 on May 4th, 2021 as presented. Acknowledgement of April financial report and payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. Recommend appointment of Michael McDonough to the Planning and Zoning Commission, term to expire 4/1/2024 due to a vacancy. Approve the appointment of Zach Simonson to the full-time position of Director of Community Development for the City of Ottumwa. Adoption of fiscal year 2022 salary schedule for non-represented employees. Approve the purchase of a used vehicle for use as an airport courtesy vehicle for the Ottumwa Regional Airport for a purchase price of $9,500. Approve the purchase of 5 2021 Ford Utility Police Interceptor utility vehicles from Stivers Ford of Waukee, Iowa, in the amount of $174,890, and the purchase of the police equipment necessary for basic police functions in the amount of $61,625 from Raycom Corporation. Resolution number 101, 2021, approving the city's wellness program, Healthy Choices Services Agreement, to be provided by the Ottumwa Regional Health Center, term to end on May 23rd, 2022. Resolution number 103, 2021, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance for the 2021 Sidewalk Drop and Detectable Warning Installation Program. Resolution number 104, 2021, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance for the 2021 Sanitary Utility Access Program. Resolution number 105, 2021, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance for the 2021 Catch Basin Replacement Program. Resolution number 106, 2021, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance for the River Wall Extension Project. Resolution number 108, 2021, approving the Wapello County City of Ottumwa Law Enforcement Center maintenance budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Beer and/or liquor applications for Parkview Plaza, Hotel Ottumwa at 107 East 2nd Street, Walgreens number 1301 at 327 West 4th Street, Casey's General Store number 1678 at 346 Richmond, Casey's General Store number 1886 at 504 West Mary Street, Casey's General Store number 7 at 1001 East Main Street, Casey's General Store number 2208 at 1603 West 2nd Street. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. I would like to ask questions about item 4, 5, 7, and then a general question.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Myers.
Okay, item 4, and this will be the only time I'll say a name because it's in the item 4, but I guess I'd like clarification again. I'm so pleased that we've hired our community development director. I think he's an excellent person to do it, but I'm curious for the public's and my own sense, why do we only list the salary when in fact they deserve compensation? And I think the city does a great job, but I'm thinking it's about a third more than the actual salary. Why don't we ever give the total pay?
Are you talking about the benefit package and anything else that goes along with that?
Yes, total compensation.
Well, the primary reason for that is the benefit package isn't going to be the same for every employee. Those packages are laid out in the personnel manual. For example, everyone gets the same vacation schedule, sick leave, everything else, unless there's some reason to offer something differently. And in those cases, we would call that out in the staff summary and the recommendation or resolution to hire, whatever it would be. We've seen that before where somebody's coming in from the outside. They have so many years of service in the industry. You may give them some credit towards vacation schedule, other things like that. But otherwise, that's all pretty much laid out there. As far as health insurance, life changes happen all the time. We could hire somebody now. They may not take insurance because they have it through their spouse. They get divorced, they now need the insurance. They get married, goes from single to family plan, or single and spouse. They have a child, now it's a family plan. It's difficult to determine what that is, and it can vary month to month.
Okay, so maybe the month to month, but in fact, Administrator Rath, when that name or any of these names come before us, haven't you already gone through what step and what other benefits? And so it really would not be that difficult to let us know what benefit, what the total package is. And I only say this because the public, they see salary and they say, well, gee, that's not too bad. And then we make decisions based on the total budget, all the employee salaries and everything else. And total, it could be at least a third more than what we print out.
Yeah, and yes, we take those things into consideration, but we don't always have that. In this case, we have a current employee who's being promoted into this position, but in some cases, it may be someone who hasn't started for the city yet. We haven't done paperwork on them to know what their needs are. There are some questions during interviews that are not legal to ask. We don't ask family status or things like that. So we may not know if they have insurance already, if they're going to take our insurance. Those are questions we don't always have the answers to.
Thank you. Okay, then I move to number 5, which we're approving for July of this year, 22 budget, and stating that persons in director supervisor positions that did not get to 2% last year, that would be included in their salary this year. And I understand that, but I also saw in our packet that it describes the position and the salary. And yet, I asked, I think 2 months ago, in our 21 budget, we had a listing of everybody's salaries and what the total compensation would be and so forth. And I've asked why we don't have that this year in the 22, because we approved the budget. And I've had various scenarios given to me as to why. This past week, rumor mill, whatever, I heard that in fact, the reason that you weren't able to give me that information was that this PACE program that was used, that 2 former employees had the passwords, and so we couldn't open that. So as I usually do, rather than listen to rumors, I called one of those people, and they assured me that in fact, for that program, several people in finance currently and did have that password. So my point being, so why is it that I can't get that information? And if it's that we're using a different program, I guess I'd like some timeline as to when that information would be available.
I'm not sure which report exactly you're talking about. This is the one that I've seen produced before, that and until tonight's meeting, I think 2007 was the last time it was maybe adopted by the council. It's something that I routinely did in prior engagements, is publishing and having the council approve a list of the salaries for any of the non-represented employees. I know it's something that we get asked from the media from time to time. And again, the compensation from any point can change. If you're talking total compensation, that can change from what we have. It's something that we budget for, but we budget kind of a total number of single employees, total number of family level employees. So we don't really have that total compensation number that you're looking for.
Okay.
And in the
Well-
new Chronos system, I think we should be able to print that at any point in time. We just don't have that adopted in there currently.
Okay, so, but to my point, I'm working from two different budgets that I can look at. We're under 2021 until June 30. So I can go to that book and I can look up and I can find everything I'm asking you about. Now, if you're saying, if part of what you're saying, it doesn't fit into what's said in here for 5, I'm only using this as, how do I get information eventually, or do I eventually, or when? We approved a tentative budget for 22.
Yes.
So how did we do that if we didn't in fact have group salaries? I was told, well, Bob, we did that by department. We just had them put down last year's and add 2% or whatever else. And yet we signed off on that budget
Yes, you did.
for 22.
Yeah. And those calculations were put in there as far as adding in 2% increase. We have the calculations from the union contracts. You know, those things are put in there as far as a multiplier for the salaries from one year to another.
Well, the last thing I'll say on it then, I'm just telling you that for the 2021 budget that we're working from now, all of that information was in it. And again, just curious why not. Okay, thank you. I'll go to 7 and just whether it's the chief or whoever. I'm curious about 5 squad cars. Why do we put the same number of mileage on those all the time? So that's why we need to replace 5 at one time?
Did you want to?
Council, Mayor. That's part of with the fleet committee and part of the CIP funding is what I'm being told. That's just the schedule that we're at on when we need to replace those. If I could clarify a little bit, what do you mean by we put the mileage on the cars at the same time or?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I just meant if 5 need to be replaced now, as each car is used, do they end up that they're in that high mileage range? Mechanically, are they needing repair and everything within that same mileage range?
Thank you. Part of that comes from the fleet committee and comes from the city mechanics. They kind of tell us when, hey, this vehicle is costing us more in maintenance costs and it's worth to keep on here and we need to set it out to pasture or get rid of it and start looking at new ones. But it's my understanding this was all part of the fleet committee and part of the CIP project. So that's why we're requesting these 5.
Yeah, and part of it is miles on the vehicles. Also part is just, like you said, the wear and tear. So squad cars, similar to taxis, get a lot of start-stop, idling, those different kinds of things that are going to wear on the parts more so than just simply drive miles.
Another issue we run into, just for the council's benefit, is there's so much electronic equipment in those vehicles. Many times during the winter months, those cars run almost nonstop because by the time the officer gets out of the car, goes in to do paperwork or deal with an arrest, we can literally come back out to that car and it's dead as a doornail. The battery's drained. We've taken to the city garage, we take it to Raycom. They're supposed to put in auto switches that once the battery gets to a certain level, it kills it. But we still run into those issues too with all the gear that's in those squad cars now. The laptops, the siren boxes, the DVR camera systems and stuff. So,
Thank you.
yep.
And I did have one last one. And it's not a number, it's just a question. I'm curious why the number of resolutions that are in the consent agenda, why they aren't in a separate section like they used to be. And I'm guessing that has council discussed those items in detail enough that we just put them in a consent agenda now?
Yeah, that would be my observation based on the ones that are here. It is routine that resolutions are both in the consent agenda and under the section under resolutions. In some cases, they're under public hearing, depending on what level and what the requirements are for it at whatever stage. I believe most of these are approving projects that had been before the council on at least 2 occasions. One pre-bid and then one after the bid. And now this is the finalization of the documentation. And that's the majority of the resolutions that are there that I see in the consent agenda. Other things that are going to be resolutions that may be in there are routine maintenance type things that, and that's really the purpose of the consent agenda. These should be primarily routine, run-of-the-mill type issues. Council can always pull out any one or multiple issues from the consent agenda that it feels necessary, but these should be ones that are fairly standard.
Thank you. I just noticed several this time, and I was just curious. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
On the 5 police vehicles, about a year or so ago, we talked about the Health and Inspection Department getting some of those vehicles because they are all-wheel drive. Is that still the case, or does anybody know yet?
Currently, we do have in place some transfers that will go to the health department for the inspectors. It's not going to particularly be the police vehicles, because most of the ones that we're getting rid of to replace are high mileage, high maintenance right now. But during the fleet meeting, we did identify some transfers, and it's my understanding that those will happen maybe like August, September timeframe. Whenever those replacement vehicles are received, then they will be transferred to the inspectors.
Where would they be from?
One of them is from engineering, I believe. Do you remember what that said?
One will be out of the street crew vehicles that we're trading for a pickup, and it's a fairly low mileage that we're going to put into the health department as an interdepartment trade.
Okay. And another question is, probably 2 years ago, I drove through the police department one Sunday, and don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to them having good equipment. I want them to have good equipment, safe equipment. But I counted 18 squad cars in a row there. I'm going to ask the chief, have you ever taken inventory to make sure you need all of those, or maybe you need more? I don't know.
Come up to the podium, please, so benefit of the public.
Yeah, part of with Skip, we keep track of the PD, and then the other part is with the fleet committee on, I don't know, mileage, maintenance costs, and stuff like that. You've got me a little bit over a barrel here. I don't know of any time we've ever had 18 squad cars personally. I don't go out, and I've never been in a position with the police department to go out and physically count them. We do have a couple of unmarked. We still have cars that are utilized by the investigators. We still have cars that are used by the Southeast Iowa Interagency Drug Task Force, but those are usually not squad cars or fully marked cars. So I certainly want to get you the answer you're desiring, and I have no problem going back and looking at records to see. You believe it was a year or two ago?
Yeah, that's when I went through.
I'll absolutely research that and get back to you. Like I said, I was unaware we had 18 vehicles that were fully marked.
There was 18 sitting there that day,
Okay.
and they were all Ottumwa PD.
Okay.
And I don't recall any unmarked. Maybe there was, I don't know, but I don't remember now. But I'm just curious. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I'm not trying to say you don't need them all. I just think it's a good idea to have an inventory every once in a while and just to justify what you do need.
And to my knowledge, that's really kind of what the fleet committee is built on and what we're supposed to be doing. Probably need to talk into that. That might be better. But yeah, we'll certainly look at that. I mean, it's my understanding that all these vehicles, like these 5 that we're needing replaced, this is part of kind of getting back up because we haven't replaced vehicles, and the fleet committee, we stalled on some of them
Catching up.
to get the higher mileage and stuff to get more out of them
Yeah,
to reduce
I
costs in the
understand.
city. So,
I understand.
all right,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Council, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any other comments or questions? Take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Item C on our agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Item D, we'll move into our administrator's report to the council and to the public. So Phil, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. At this time, I'd like to call Tim Richmond up, who is the Director of Emergency Management for Wapello County, to discuss a letter of interest to purchase public property.
Thank you, Administrator, Mayor, Council. I have a few thoughts here on paper. Keep me under time or the mayor will get upset. Just kidding. I would venture a guess that prior to COVID-19, many people had not heard of emergency management. Through the COVID response, you've seen me stand beside our County Board of Supervisors, Mayor Lazio, the mayors of our county's small communities and the sheriff, and leading our county through the longest disaster in modern history. Many of you now have a better understanding of the type of leadership emergency management provides during times of disaster and large-scale emergencies in our communities. So 2 years ago, I began talking to my commissioners about my vision to expand the core capabilities of the emergency management program. And this included the ability to have a full-time emergency operations center, not strictly an ad hoc one, the ability to have a shipping and receiving facility, not just a bunch of borrowed spaces, the ability to have storage space for durable goods and mobile equipment used to support communities, response agencies in fulfilling their duties when working to return our communities to a whole state after responding to disasters and large-scale emergencies. And none of this can happen out of an 11 by 11 office and a storage closet. I designed a modest building that would fit the bill, and Mayor Lazio and I met with an architect and were quite surprised at the initial guesstimate of what that would cost, and that was pre-pandemic and pre-lumber shortage. Other options have been explored, such as county-owned buildings, partnering with Indian Hills at the airport campus, both which would still require construction. In the past year, you have entered into an agreement changing the way transit services are delivered in Ottumwa, and this potentially frees up a building that has all the features needed by my agency. Over the past year, Administrator Rath and I have discussed the possibility of the Emergency Management Commission acquiring this facility as it is no longer needed by the city. This would be a win-win for both entities. It fulfills the needs of the EMA and would continue to serve the citizens of Ottumwa as well as the rest of the county. Therefore, Commission Chair Parker, Administrator Rath, and I met to discuss this and proposed that the City of Ottumwa and the Wapello County Board of Supervisors, being the two largest taxing entities in my commission, split the cost of the buyout of the facility and transfer ownership of the commission. And that's where I'll defer back to Administrator Rath to talk about that.
I guess I'll welcome any questions from the council. Currently, I've reached out to the Iowa DOT to determine our opportunities there. We have some obligations that are still outlying as far as the transit building, federal funds, state funds that were used to either construct or remodel some of those areas. So we still have those obligations and currently needs to be used for transit purpose, which 1015 has agreed to still use that facility and maintain that responsibility for us. So in order for us to vacate that or move away from that, we would need to purchase that outright. It was estimated around, I want to say $260,000, working with the state to get the final number on that, and any process that would be required to move forward should the council desire to proceed with the recommendation and that letter of intent as presented by EMA.
Phil, I got a question for you, if you don't mind. What is our current transit levy now? Zero.
For this next year, it would be at 0.
Okay. I know Tim knows where I stand on this. I think we've seen the importance of emergency management, and the fact that Tim's been working out of a tiny office is, in my opinion, ridiculous. And I know there's a lot of legalities surrounding this. I know I went through the 1015 Ottumwa transit thing. I understand that. I would just say my comment is I'd like to see a way to make this happen. Tim, you deserve that. You need that space, and I think it's something we should consider. I don't know if it's anything we planned on before the budget cycle. I don't think I remember hearing anything about it. I know I talked to Kayla about it previously, but I think it's something we need to give our attention to and get done, in my opinion. Tim needs the space. We've seen how valuable emergency management is to the community and the county. The offer's on the table, hopefully to split this. That makes it a little bit easier to manage. And it's nothing we have to rush into tomorrow. So my wish is that we do something with this building if both entities agree. And, I know it's going to be a little cost, but, we can always work ahead if we know ahead. And I think it's something we need to get done. So I'm glad to hear the discussion's ongoing, Tim. I think it's a great idea, and I hope it's successful. It sure has my support if we can work that out, in the future to get that done.
Yeah, our current information at the moment is that we can purchase our way out of that obligation. If anything changes, then we'll have to bring that information forward. But that's what we're operating at right now. Other than using it for a transit purpose, our second option is to purchase. So whether it's to work jointly with EMA on that, or it's to purchase it and sell it for some other purpose, whatever it might be, we're still going to have to buy out that obligation.
Do we have a liability, say at this point, just a hypothetical, if 1015 Transit said, we don't need a building, we're tired of dealing with it, city's got to have it. Would we be on the hook then at that point to do a full buyout? Possibly, probably. This seems like there's at least an offer on the table to split that buyout cost, and we may need to consider, biting the bullet ahead of time rather than later and having that full amount shoved on the city budget. But that's just an observation and a thought. But and again, I fully support emergency management. They need an area where they can function properly and have the room. Like I said, again, we've seen the importance of having them in the community, and what they have right now is just not cutting it. So appreciate the extra information on that, Phil.
So there'll be more to come back to the council in the future as we gather more information.
Yeah, I was looking for a general consent to proceed if this is a direction that the council would like. If not, then we'll lay it to rest and emergency management will look for an alternate site, I guess.
I see heads nodding, so we'll
Okay.
take that as a go-ahead and continue working on it, Phil, and you and Tim and commission can pursue at least, and has to come back to the council anyway, so let
Sounds
us
good.
know when you're ready.
All right. Thank you, council. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. And item 2 I have on here is fireworks. So 4th of July is around the corner. And one of the things that comes up along with that is fireworks and the use of fireworks in the city. And so just as a reminder, I wanted to put out there, you're going to see fireworks stands, people selling fireworks in the near future. June 1st is just around the corner, and that's the first date that permanent structures can sell fireworks. But in order to use fireworks in the city, discharging fireworks on private property, that is limited to July 4th. It is only the one day a year, and it is limited between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. So just as a public announcement, public service reminder, fireworks may be discharged on private property in the city limits on July 4th only, and from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. So please limit your use to that time and remain within the legal limits of the city.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder. We always give citizens a chance to comment on any item on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on. Let's go to item G then.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the disposal of city-owned property described as the south 41 feet of lots 10 and 11 in Devon's addition to the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa, commonly known as 510 North Market Street.
This is a public hearing, so we'll give the floor to Zach to give us some background.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Just really quickly, before I do this, I wanted to say thank you to the council, to the mayor, and to Phil for the opportunity to undertake this new position. It's about 4 years ago this month that I started working for the city as the code enforcement intern or the grasser or the grass guy or whatever. And it's really been an experience to work my way up through those different positions. It's my hometown, and I'm really proud and excited to be working here doing this for the community. This item is dispossession of a city-owned property. The city came to own this particular home through Iowa Code Section 637A, where we took title to abandoned property. We accepted bids until 2 p.m. on May 11th, and 3 bids were submitted. Fred Verschure submitted the best bid in the amount of $5,176, and staff recommends accepting the bid. A copy of the bid tab, or the bid in the bid tab, is attached to the packet.
Has there been any public comment?
I've received no objections to this item.
Is there anyone in the audience who wants to address this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing portion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 83, 2021, accepting the bid and approving the sale of city-owned property described as the south 41 feet of lots 10 and 11 in Devon's addition to the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa, commonly known as 510 North Market Street, to Fred Verschure for the sum of $5,176. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 83, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the proposed amendment to the fiscal year 21 city budget.
This is a public hearing, so we'll call on, Finance Director Kayla Mulder.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Public hearing is required for citizen comments prior to the consideration of amending the budget for fiscal year 21. The budget is being amended according to the attached summary, which I know is very hard to read on our screen in here, but you guys should have it all in your packets. And it was also published in the Courier. This amendment will not increase property taxes, but is amending our current year budget. And I kind of want to go through these amendments and kind of what the summary of these amendment amounts are, because sometimes when you look here, like that first line item, other city taxes, it's not very fluid to know what those are. So I'm going to go through a couple of these that have some big changes and explain so that way the citizens understand what this published item means. So the first item that we amended is under the category other city taxes, and that amount is for $1,062,780. And this includes some of the lost funds. It also includes things like our MediaCom franchise revenue that we receive. Okay. The next item that we'll talk about is the broad category intergovernmental. And that change for revenue is up $1,092,907. And this is our federal, state, and local grants that we've received. So we're going to receive in this fiscal year that $1,092,907. And this also includes the road use tax fund that is up. The next item that is actually a reduction in revenue is that charges for services, and that's $1,173,862. And that includes the proprietary funds that we have, which there's a lot of proprietary funds, but the biggest changes in this is going to be that of transit, that we eliminated that fund basically this year, but we did not know that before we had approved the budget for FY21 that we were not going to operate transit any longer. So that is eliminating that transit revenue out of this. The other one, that's a proprietary fund, would be the airport and just, a couple other things like that. But the reason why the reduction is mostly going to be because of that transit fund. The next one is miscellaneous, because that's very descriptive as well. And so that includes the rest of the lost fund, the majority of the lost money. It includes, under the special revenues, it includes, this one includes the airport, and this also includes the bonds for the 151 fund, which was about $280,000. And that is what covers the police vehicles and some of those other CIPs that we did this year to give some relief to the general fund. So that's included in that line item. And then the other financing sources are those bonds for the capital. And that amount is $7,034,809. There's a couple other little things in there, but it's mainly that $7 million that we borrowed for capital in those bonds. And then the transfers in also is because of the bonds, because we receive funds in one area and, we're transferring in and out of like the general fund and different funds. And so because of those transfers this year, that line item went up. And then if you look down below, the same dollar amount for the transfers out is that $3,678,479. We'll go down to the expenditures part of it, and the first one is that general government, and again, that's where the airport, the 151 bonds, and our liability coverage also went up a little bit this year that we were not expecting. And then again, the capital projects, but those were used for bonds. And so that is that $6,411,853. And then the business type enterprise, those expenses are going down because of transit. And then again, the transfer out, it matches the same $3,678,479 for the transfers in for those movements of the bonds. And you guys already approved all those transfers at one of the prior council meetings. So all in all, our revenues minus our expenditures went up $1,843,847. So, and again, this is all inclusive of all of our funds. It does not just include our general fund. It's a summary of all of our funds that we have on our budget. You guys also received some line item information that our city accountant Tina put together. So hopefully that helped a little bit further explain. So I guess at this time I can take any questions.
Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address this, or has there been any comment to you, Chris, in city clerk's office?
I've received no comments or anything on this item.
Then let's close the public hearing portion first, and then we'll give the council a chance to ask anything. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Resolution number 90, 2021, amending the annual budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 90, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now, if you have any questions or comments, let's address them to Kayla.
I guess I'll start off.
Go
and
ahead,
Just say, and probably for the 10th time, I think that this is reflective of the wise leadership that we've had at the city staff level here for the last year. We walked into this budget cycle in a very precarious position, and we weren't exactly sure how we were going to manage over the next couple of years as far as cash flows go. And here we are ending up in a better position than we had started. And I think, again, just hats off to you guys for your leadership this last year and moving into the next fiscal year, because I think that the future is a little bit brighter financially than it had been.
Thank you, Mark.
Kayla, I got a quick question for you. And this is on the topic of the budget amendment, but what do we have back to transit? And I know that's kind of the majority of the transfers and things moving around and the tax reduction. What do we have in our transit fund currently that's just there? I mean, we prepared for certain things in certain scenarios, so we weren't to zero, but what is that balance?
Well, I don't have the actual
Yeah,
fund balance
that's
in front of
maybe
me,
rough.
but what is left in that fund balance would be assets. So it would be the building, what's in that building, land, that kind of thing. So if you guys are looking at fund balances, that doesn't mean that that's liquid, that's cash
Right.
or anything like that. So really anything that is in there right now would be those assets. We might have some funds in there that we've received this year from our tax levy that we still had for this fiscal year. But most of that we did transfer on. But we were able to and told that we could keep some of that for maintenance and things like that on the building. And so we do have a little bit of liquid in that, but I don't know what the split is. But most of that fund balance would be assets.
Well, I know we talked about before we approved the last budget that, and it's been some time back, that when the transit transfer took place, that there was a lot of contingent things we weren't sure of at the time. And a lot of those we cleared up and got clarification from the state on. But I know one of the things we talked about was possibly having to, buy back the building, from the state. And I was just curious to see how much we had in there if we were looking to, sell the building or do a partnership with the county, how much we have maybe to throw at that to soften the blow, or we'd have to CIP that at a later
Yep.
date.
We would not be able to use those funds in the transit fund because that's specifically earmarked for transit or for the
Yeah,
transit
I didn't know if the
building.
sale of the building was transit
Yep.
related or not. I know there are a lot of line items in
I
the
mean,
state
if we
code.
were, I guess if, it could be classified as a transit, it would work, but they're not.
So what would we do with those funds if, say, we did move forward and happen to sell the building or come to an agreement? What would we do with those funds? It'd have to be liquidated somehow. Would we have to give, some form of tax relief? We obviously couldn't use them for transit anymore. Do we just transfer that to 1015, or how does that all work?
I don't know how that would work to, give back, but we could always transfer it to a local district, transit district.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Kayla? Kayla, would you comment just about our debt service? I see that 731,000. That's just the additional cost this year.
Yeah, because of the bonds that we took out and also some of the cleanup that we had accomplished this year too, the debt service did go up about 731,000 for that fund.
Okay. Thank you. Any other council comments, questions? Okay, if you're ready to vote, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you, Kayla. We'll get this filed with the state.
Resolution number 107, 2021, accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the 2020 roofing improvements project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 107, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. We have with us Public Works Director Larry Seals. Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The City Council approved a contract in the amount of $111,263 to Hawkeye Enterprise Roofing and Coating of Cincinnati, Iowa through Resolution 223-219 on November 5th of 2019. The project entailed roofing the WPCF maintenance roof and the WPCF Airport Pump Station and Fire Station 1 dormitory roof. The contract has been completed, and the above referenced work according to the plans and specifications. Upon approval, the council will accept the project and authorize final payment and release of all retainage.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 109, 2021, lifting the moratorium on sale of city-owned vacant lots and adopting the fourth amended policy number 42-2004 for the disposition of city-owned properties. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 109, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. So last May, the council approved Resolution 101, 2020, which placed a moratorium of up to 1 year on the city-owned vacant lots that were suitable for development unless the purchaser had signed a development agreement to build a dwelling or a commercial building on the lot. This time has allowed the planning department to revise policy 42-2004, which is the policy that we use for the disposition of city-owned lots. And there's a few revisions we want to make. And I kind of put together a presentation just because this is some information that we really try to get out to the public so that they know the process, how to come about acquiring these lots if it's something they're interested in. And so I'm just going to quickly go through that. So right now we did have the moratorium. There's also 33 lots that are in the city's vacant lot inventory right now. And there's been some interest lately in infill development, and that's been encouraging. So when we took a look at making changes to the policy, we looked at what things were working. Neighbors are interested in buying and caring for neighboring lots. Also, our policies made it available for nonprofits to take an interest in housing, and that's been supportive for Rippling Waters as they've taken off, and some of the other nonprofit organizations that build housing. And then finally, we did have at least one single family housing start on a city-owned vacant lot last year. So that's encouraging. Some things that we saw that were issues, our mowing bill continues to go up, and we own a lot of lots that aren't suitable for anything other than mowing, and it'd be great to unload some of those. We also want to avoid situations where a buyer would neglect or misuse property. We've had some of those cases. And then we have had some interest around, well, if we wanted to do community gardens, how would we go about something like that? So we wanted to build that possibility into the program when we took a look at revisions. So the changes that are going to be in this policy, the Director of Community Development will review the current inventory of vacant lots and then any other lot as we acquire it to make a determination as to whether or not it's suitable for development. If it is suitable for development, we will require a development agreement at the time of purchase for that lot. Another thing the Director will do is send notices annually to adjacent property owners for lots that aren't suitable for development, try to advertise that those are for sale, and see if we can't get rid of some of those lots and lower that mowing cost. Third, we will put a restriction on buyers buying lots that are not adjoining to their property if those lots are only suitable for green space. These transactions, the only possible value would be speculation, which we've always tried to discourage. And they tend to lead to situations where buyers neglect or misuse them. Either they don't mow it or they try to park equipment there, things like that that aren't really suitable uses. And then finally, we do want to create an opportunity to sell lots that are, again, not suitable for building a house to nonprofits if they would be interested in a community garden. That'd be at that $1 purchase price, and the buyer would have to demonstrate that the organization is sustainable and able to maintain the lot. The things that we'd preserve would be the lots are available for that starting price of $250. There's some discounted cases where the buyer is a nonprofit or where the city's owned the lot for more than 5 years. or where there's an adjacent property owner. I think that's all there is to it. Hopefully, though, this will reduce our costs, our liability, and will also allow us to still use these lots as an incentive for development.
Any questions for Zach?
I just have a quick question. I know one of the topics, and this is far transcended this moratorium, has been trying to get properties in blocks. That way we could offer some sort of incentive to developers to come to the community where they have more than one lot to work with. How does ending this moratorium affect that? That's part one of this. And part two of it, I guess one of my concerns, and that really doesn't affect my decision on ending the moratorium, but one of my concerns that is continuing to have just green space additions to the community as opposed to having areas where there are actually houses where there's a noticeable change to the tax rolls as opposed to just having, you know, a $250 lot. So how does ending the moratorium and those change in rules address those two things?
Yeah. So, and one thing that I think is written into the or is written into the actual policy is that the criteria that are used to determine whether a lot's suitable for development include things like its size, its topography, but also the proximity of other lots that are vacant, either whether we own them or not. We would want to hold on to those if there's a situation where we think we can build up to that sort of critical level where we can sell something that is a package deal development. So that's one of the criteria that we'll use for whether or not we want to hold on to a lot or require a development agreement before we sell a lot. And then to the other question, we want to encourage the infill housing. So unless a lot is, 30 feet wide, unless it's only 2,000 square feet, we're going to look seriously at keeping that lot available for development rather than selling it on as green space. But where we are able to unload the lots that are green space, we still want to be able to do that rather than continue to mow them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was going to say, and to that effect too, is if they are not of suitable size for building and they're green space now, it just may be the adjacent owner's green space, if they continue to mow it, or the community garden aspect, still beautifying the area, providing some buffer in the city.
Okay.
And I do just, again, want to emphasize too, that the criteria for if you can build on it aren't going to be it exactly meets the current zoning requirements. We'll take into account the possibility of a variance. We'll take into some of those things. And those will be the criteria. I was looking at something like 80% of the current required lot dimensions as being a cutoff for that. So that way we have that possibility where maybe we'll do something on an even smaller lot than necessarily the zoning code requires, and just making sure we're conservative about preserving the opportunities for development.
Good.
Your Honor, I got a quick question for Zach.
Go ahead, Matt.
Did you and your staff develop this policy?
So I worked with Christine Stone at Allers. She helped me. I gave her sort of the first draft. And then, of course, Jody Gates went over it with me. We're lucky that she's still on with us a bit, and she wrote the first draft, so she helped me with it as well.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a big fan of it. I do share Councilman Rowe's concern. And I know this has been a long time coming for Councilmember Stevens too to address that. He had a great idea for a moratorium so we could better develop a policy. And again, it speaks to why you were chosen for this position. This seems to be a well thought out policy that covers pretty much every angle. And I guess, we never want to see, buildable lots lost. And this policy seems to, not allow that to happen very easily. And the lots that are green space that we're currently having a cost to mow, it seems like it takes care of that too. It kind of gets that off the outgo from our budget. So, I think it's well done. Very good policy. I fully support it. I appreciate the work you did on it. And again, it's a testament to why you were chosen for this position.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just was wondering, will we be able to get an active map on the city website as those are deemed, so that way we can make sure we can advertise those to the fullest?
Yes, I have a map now. I can make some improvements to that. We'll also make sure that we have the spreadsheet available. What I want to do first is make sure I inventory and set the expectation of whether those are available for purchase. And then when it goes out to the public, people will know what the possibilities are.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good comments. Anything else? Okay, ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
We also give citizens a chance to make comments about any item of city business. Anybody in the audience want to address the city council? Seeing none, we'll move on to petitions and communication. A couple of comments. City called a meeting with the Canadian Pacific Railroad, and I think we had a great meeting with them. And want to thank Tricia Ray for taking some leadership in that. And we had county sheriff, a supervisor, and a number of citizens and our own staff. They have already started making some adjustments, and I think it's helping our situation. So again, it's an improvement to the crossing at Black Hawk Road, and we're real happy that they've worked with us on that. Debbie Durham, the director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority and also the Iowa Finance Authority, was in town last week and spent a day, morning, visiting with a number of us and walked our downtown streetscape and looked at some of the upper story apartments. And she was just checking out to see that her money was being put to good use. And she was very pleased and very complimentary to our city staff and to Region 15 Planning Area Agency that helped us get that money. So always nice to have that support from state officials. I'd like to recognize tonight Jeff Hendred. I don't know how many of you heard, but Jeff Hendred did receive the President's Volunteer Award. And Jeff, as you know, is a longtime citizen who has been outstanding in terms of providing both leadership at our school. He's principal of Wilson School this year, but he's done so many other things like the Martin Luther King celebration, youth activity, and also as a co-owner of the Polar Express. But Representative Miller Meeks honored him on the U.S. House floor and did present him with an award. And so we should all recognize Jeff when you see him. This week is also National Police Week, and we want to recognize our men in blue and women in blue and thank them for the public safety that they provide to our community. And we certainly want to support them. It's been a difficult year or so, and we hope that you know that you have the support of the City Council. Tomorrow morning, we have a meeting with our potential investors for the hotel at Bridgeview. So I'm hoping after that meeting, I'll be able to give the council some update as to where we stand, but hopefully we'll be able to say we're going to move ahead. We're to the point where we're going to make a decision one way or the other, and I'm very optimistic that we will see it go forward, but we'll have to wait until after the people visit and vote. I'm happy to report to you, I had a letter late this afternoon from Amtrak. They are going to start resuming daily service on the California Zephyr, which is a big intercontinental railroad train that comes through Ottumwa. But also the good news is that they have approved plans, according to Zach, for remodeling our platform at the Amtrak station. And they hope to let that bid sometime this fall and get a shovel in the ground yet this year. So that's been a long time coming, but we're very pleased about that. And last but not least, I want to again thank Holly and all the people who've been a part of Make Ottumwa Shine. This is the Make Ottumwa Shine week, but we don't want to think of this as just 1 week and then it's out of sight, out of mind. I think it's really important that all of us take a pride in the entire city, and whether it's your neighborhood, your school, where you shop, stop, pick stuff up, remind people not to throw things out the window, and let's get our city looking as good as it can. I think we're seeing some real interest in our downtown and the flowers that are being planted, and it just makes the community look much better. So thank you for all the people, and Main Street has been very active in that. We appreciate their work on that. Okay, council, is there anything you want to bring to the attention of the city or administration?
Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. Myers.
Just a real, I think, positive progress from the Bridgeview Center. And I'd like to compliment Scott Hogren and the staff. But 2 weeks ago, their Mother's Day brunch, they served over 700 for that brunch. And that evening, they had a special group in that was 100 additional dinners that night. And then this past weekend, the Bull Riders celebrated their 10th year here at Bridgeview, and that was a 3-day. And then also Saturday night, not only did they have the Bull Riders, but they also had the symphony orchestra. So things are starting to move forward, and congratulations to Scott and the staff.
Very good. Thank you. Last call. Any other city business?
Your Honor, I'd make just a couple real quick comments.
Sure,
Everybody's
go
ready to
ahead.
get out of here. It's nice to hear all the appreciation for staff and giving credit where credit's due. And I don't think we do enough of that around here. And I would just give a shout out to the PD. That's a nice report, Chief. It's really thorough. And I think a lot of people don't have any idea the stuff you guys go through day to day and what you do for our community. So people have a chance to check that out. I don't know if it's on the website or not, but it's something people ought to look through and take a look at. And then I just want to say it's nice to see as a council person, especially in his final year on the council, seeing years of struggle and trials and people leaving us and people coming to us that we're finally on track. The administration, hats off to you guys for putting good people in good places. It makes the job of the council a lot less, hectic and we kind of have an idea of what we want to see done, and it seems like those two things are meshing pretty well. Congratulations, Zach, on your new position, and all our department heads just do a tremendous job, and the way that Phil's trying to lead the city now, and we've had some bumps in the road, and it's been a change of how we do things, but it's really nice to see it all come together. So I appreciate that, and just wanted the staff to know. Yeah.
Thank you for that positive comment. Last call. Anything from any department heads? Okay, hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Skip and Holly.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
6:31.